Hi guys, it's Carrie with Happy Fish Tarot, reeling in wisdom from the Sea of Tarot, and today I am here with a deck review. I want to talk with you about the Dreaming Way Tarot. This is a deck that I post a lot of pictures of on my Instagram and on Facebook, and if you are not following me on Instagram and Facebook, you should be, so I will put my links below the video. And every time, without fail, that I put pictures up of this deck on social media, I get comments from people saying that they think this deck is so pretty and people asking me what deck it is. So I want to kind of talk you through this deck and give you my opinion on the Dreaming Way Tarot. This is a deck that was published by US Game Systems and it came out in 2012, I believe. The creator came up with the name Dreaming Way because the images from the cards came to him in dreams. Now, one thing I want to let you know right away before I proceed any further with this review is the first thing that I did when I got my deck was to trim the borders of the cards. So you can sort of see on the box what the Fool card, for example, looked like originally before it was trimmed. You can see, hopefully you can see there's kind of the traditional white borders with the name of the card below. And then here is what mine looks like after I trimmed the borders. I had seen pictures online of this deck with trimmed borders before I purchased it, and I really liked the way the images looked, so I knew right away as soon as this deck was in my hands that that was going to be the first thing that I would do with it. And someone online said that when they trimmed the borders of this deck, they felt like they were letting the images out of jail, and that really stood out to me. That's exactly how I felt as I was trimming my own. This is actually the only deck that I've ever trimmed the borders of, but I'm really pleased with the way it turned out. The only downside to my trimmed borders version of this deck is that it does make it a little bit difficult to shuffle the cards. It's still doable, but I find that it works better for some reason if I flip the cards face up rather than trying to shuffle them face down. I think it's something about the edges being maybe not 100% perfectly aligned. So that to me is worth the trade-off. I really like the way the imagery on this deck looks when it is not enclosed within the borders. This is definitely a Rider-Waite based deck. Most of the images draw very heavily from the traditional Rider-Waite depictions, but there are a few cards that to me seem entirely different, so I'll show you a few examples of what I'm talking about. Here we have the Seven of Cups, the Four of Pentacles, Eight of Swords, and Eight of Wands. As you can see, very heavily Rider-Waite based. And now for a few that seem quite different than the Rider-Waite depictions. The Three of Pentacles, Seven of Pentacles, Three of Swords, and my personal befuddlement card in the Dreaming Way Tarot is the World. Yes, this is the World. We have a gentleman reclined in a chair and his hands are crossed in front of him. He's holding a pipe, and every time I see him, he just reminds me of J.R.R. Tolkien. I was trying to think of the best way to describe the overall style of this deck, and to me it has a really steampunk meets hipster vibe to it. Let me show you the High Priestess. So the High Priestess is wearing knee socks and a top hat and sitting on this moon, and we have this kind of cool funky background behind her. So again, to me this deck definitely has that kind of steampunk meets hipster feel to it, which I'm not saying is a bad thing. It's quite pleasant if that is something that you're into. A lot of the characters in the deck, in fact I think almost every character in the deck has these pink rosy cheeks. But there are a few characters in the deck, particularly on cards that are traditionally associated with heavier energy, such as the Hanged Man and the Ten of Swords, in which the cheeks of the characters are kind of a blue color. One thing I really like about this deck is that there's kind of a seasonal vibe to the four suits. The cups have a very spring feel to them, Wands are summer, Pentacles are autumn, and Swords are winter. And I'll show you a few cards here where you can see in the imagery the hints of the seasons that these cards are associated with. In terms of the court cards, the pages are all shown in this deck as young females. I have to show you the Page of Cups. This is my favorite card in the deck. Come on, she has a teacup on her head and there's fish on the card. What's not to love about this? So overall, this is a deck I really enjoy working with. It somehow manages to always stay in my consistent rotation. Oh, there's Nanners. Look how cute. Hi, Nanners. And I find that for me, this deck lends itself more to readings that have to do with creativity and readings where I will really want to give some uplifting and kind of inspiring advice. It's not necessarily a deck I typically turn to for readings on heavier topics or more spiritual themes, although I have a few times with good results. But generally, to me, the imagery in this deck is so kind of vibrant and fun that I like to use it for things that are more uplifting. So for me, this is not necessarily a perfect deck, but it is very charming and very endearing, and like I said before, it's one that I consistently find myself coming back to. So I'm very happy that I do have it in my collection, and I hope that this review has given you some things to think about if you are considering purchasing the Dreaming Way Tarot for yourself. If you have any questions for me, you are welcome to leave me a comment and I will try to help you out. Make sure to subscribe to my YouTube channel. I do put out videos every Tuesday. You can also visit me at happyfishtarot.com, and I will catch you next time. Bye.